You're going to have a chance to shape the American economy's future if you're going to the polls in November. That's because your two choices for president, Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden, have much different visions about the path to prosperity. Mr. Trump wants to double down on tax cuts and deregulation.
Our movement is pro-jobs, pro-worker, pro-police, and 100% pro-American.
Joe Biden has a different view. He says he wants to raise taxes on high earners and also restore relationships with economic allies.
Awful lot of hard-working people busted the neck. All they ask for is a shot.
Either one of them also has to manage the country's attempt to rebound from its sharpest economic contraction on record. Here's how the two men stack up on economic policy.
The president and former vice president are most far apart on taxes. While they both say they won't raise tax rates for middle-income households, Joe Biden does want to raise taxes from the wealthy.
The Tax Policy Center says the top 1% of households would see their after-tax income drop 17% under Mr. Biden's plan. But workers on the low end of the pay scale could see new tax credits under Mr. Biden's plan, and that could lessen their burden.
We don't need a tax code that rewards wealth more than it rewards work.
And for President Trump, the approach is less is more.
His 2017 tax cuts for now are set to expire in 2025. If he's reelected, President Trump says he wants to make them permanent. The president has also ordered the Treasury Department to defer collection of Social Security taxes this year. If he's reelected, he wants to make those deferrals permanent too.
No matter who wins this election, the U.S. is in a new era of economic tension with China. But the similarities on trade between Biden and Trump end there.
President Trump imposed tariffs on goods imported from China. They ranged from 7.5% to 25% on more than $350 billion worth of products that Americans consume. President Trump reached a ceasefire with China earlier this year.
Ultimately, it's a great deal for both countries, and it's going to also lead to even a more stable peace throughout the world.
The coronavirus has added a new chill to the bond between the world's two largest economies. That's going to make it hard to reach new deals with America's big economic rival.
The United States wants an open and constructive relationship with China, but achieving that relationship requires us to vigorously defend our national interests.
Mr. Trump has also challenged American allies like Canada, Mexico, and Germany. Biden won't move fast to take those China tariffs away, but he does want to repair alliances with other countries.
Last week, I shared the outlines of my plan to build back better. That plan rejects the defeatist view that automation and globalization mean we can't ensure our future is made in America.
On energy and the environment, the incumbent and his challenger are also worlds apart. And that reflects a much different set of concerns within their own parties.
During his first term, President Trump pulled out of the Paris Agreement to reduce emissions and combat climate change. Instead, the president has prioritized domestic fuel production and sped up approvals of new pipelines and other energy infrastructure. His policies are meant to support jobs in energy-producing regions like the Appalachians and West Texas, places hurt by the recent recession.
We are telling the Washington politicians trying to abolish American energy, don't mess with Texas.
If reelected, the president wants to roll back regulations further. Biden, on the other hand, wants to rejoin the Paris Agreement and make new commitments to reduce U.S. carbon emissions. That includes regulations to cut commercial building emissions by 2030. Biden also has a $2 trillion spending plan to invest in areas like solar and wind power.
When it comes to government spending, if you look at Joe Biden's plans or Donald Trump's track record, you come out with the same conclusion. It's go big or go home.
The Biden plan would result in $5.4 trillion of additional spending over 10 years. That's a fraction of the amount the progressive wing of the Democratic Party wanted, but it's still twice as large as what Hillary Clinton proposed in 2016. Biden's platform calls for increases in spending on education, infrastructure, and housing, in addition to the environment.
I truly believe we have a tremendous opportunity to turn this moment of crisis into a moment of progress.
These spending priorities aren't unusual for a Democrat, but conservative Republicans might need to make peace with Mr. Trump's own spending habits. Under his leadership, federal spending jumped 15% in his first 3 years in office. A lot of that was on defense, but not all of it. And that was before the coronavirus crisis. This year, spending is projected to go to $6.6 trillion. That's more than double the level of federal spending in 2008. With new taxes, federal revenues haven't kept pace with the bills coming due under President Trump. The government has been funding those revenue shortfalls with more and more debt. Additional government borrowing in President Trump's first term is set to exceed $6.5 trillion. That's as much money as the U.S. borrowed between its founding in 1789 and the recession of 2008.
Under either candidate, there's simply no end in sight. But there's good news. Because interest rates are so low, it's actually very cheap to borrow at this moment. Those interest rates and other government financial policies are managed by this institution, the Federal Reserve. And one of the most important relationships that any president has is with the Fed's chair.
Among 12 Fed decision makers, the president appoints the chair and 6 other governors. Their powers are vast, especially in times of emergency. During crises, the Fed lends money to make sure banks and markets don't collapse. President Trump appointed Jerome Powell to be Fed chair. Then the president criticized the Fed leader for not holding interest rates down to promote growth.
There's negative interest. Who ever heard of such a thing? Give me some of that. Give me some of that money. I want some of that money. Our Federal Reserve doesn't let us do it.
If Trump wins, he'll have to decide whether to give Powell another term starting in 2022.
We need to stay in our lane. We do have this grant of independence. I think to keep that, we need to stay with what you've given us to do, which is maximum employment, stable prices, supervise the banks.
Mr. Powell did move aggressively to cushion the economy during the coronavirus crisis, and that won praise from President Trump. But the Fed chair has also asserted his independence from a president who greatly values loyalty. Biden will have the same choice to make about giving Powell another term if he's elected. President Obama and President Clinton, both Democrats, each re-upped Republican chairmen for the job after they became president in the name of stability for markets and the economy. Would Mr. Biden follow their lead? And which of these choices is best for your own economic interests? You've got until November 3rd to decide.